Starting off at number 10. The Reddit user Watermelly3 posted this story. So she states that her experience happened a couple of years ago when she went to pick up her husband from the ferry after work. While pulling out of the parking lot, they noticed two individuals heading to their car. These individuals were strangers to each other. One was a man reaching into his bag, while the lady had her head positioned to the right. She claims that these individuals were completely frozen in these positions. The wife and the husband sat in the car watching the frozen strangers, and they were completely in shock. Then she claims that it was like someone pressed play on a remote and they just continued on like nothing happened. Now there is only one explanation for this. Adam Sandler got hold of the remote from the movie Click Again. I love that movie. Kidding, but seriously, that's definitely a huge glitch to experience. Moving on to number 9. One night, a group of friends and roommates were hanging out together in their apartment. Now, one of the roommates just got a new phone, and she was sitting on the bed using it while all the other girls socialized. There was a moment when the roommate placed the phone down to be involved in the conversation. A few minutes later, she reached for her phone, and it was gone. The girls call for it, but they can't find the phone. They strip the room and bed apart looking for the phone, but it's nowhere to be found. The girls began to become weirded out since no one had left the room during the conversation. They ended up going out to her car and they found the phone in the car, locked in the trunk. They were all in the same room, witnessed the girl on the phone and placing it on the bed, yet somehow it teleported down 3 floors and into the trunk of the car. That is so trippy. Unless the girls were heavily under the influence, there's no reasonable explanation for that. Let's move on to number 8. This next story comes from the Reddit user White Zombie Cat. Now, this man recounts his and his wife's experience with a glitch in the Matrix. He states that he went out with his wife for dinner one night. When he returned home, they opened the door and he saw his wife on the computer doing work. He claims that he is normally greeted with this image when he arrives home from work, except it was impossible this time because his wife was right beside him. Later that night, he tells his wife what he saw and she claims that she too saw herself sitting at the computer. I mean, I was going to say maybe his brain created the image in his mind since he stated that this is what he normally sees when he opens the door after work, but then he said that his wife saw it too. That's so strange. Moving on to number 7. This next story happened a couple of years ago. One day, this woman was in Best Buy when she came across the last book in the Stephen King series, The Dark Tower. The front of the cover had a picture of the character Roland in front of the tower with a field of roses behind him. She was a little confused as to why this book was in Best Buy, but she just continued on with her day. She was a fan of the series, had read the first 6 and wanted to buy this last one, but her money situation was tight at the time, so she just put the book back down and planned on buying it the next week. However, when she returned the following week, it wasn't there. A month later, she went to Barnes & Noble to get the copy when they said it had not come out yet. It was to come out in 6 months. When the book did come out 6 months later, the book cover was exactly how she remembered it. Now, authors do send out copies in advance to certain people to promote it, but she can't fathom how someone could accidentally leave this book on a shelf in Best Buy. What do you think of the story? Is Stephen King just really good at marketing, or was it a glitch in the Matrix? Let me know down below. On to number 6. Now, Disney World is known as the happiest place on earth, so nothing freaky or glitchy would happen there, right? Well, wrong. Think again. This next story surrounds a girl and her family when they took a trip to Disney. She was 6 years old at the time and she and her family went to watch a parrot show. In the middle of the show, she had to go to the bathroom, so her mom took her while her dad stayed with her sister to watch the show. When they returned from the bathroom, the whole place was empty, so they decided to go back to the bathroom to wait for her dad and sister. They waited there looking for them for 2 hours before deciding to go back to the hotel to wait for them there. However, while waiting at the bathroom area, the girl saw a lizard and squirrel fighting. This may sound insignificant now, but just hold on. So when her dad and sister finally returned to the hotel, they claimed that they too were waiting at the same spot outside of the bathrooms for them. They never saw each other, but both of the sisters said that they saw the lizard and squirrel fighting from the exact same spot on the bench. How is that possible? How did they both see the same thing from the same position, but they weren't even together? Like, seriously, what is going on? We are now at our halfway mark with number 5. This next individual posted a story about meeting someone who no longer exists. In October of 2018, this woman developed tendinitis in her hand and had to go see a hand specialist. The hand specialist was a Vietnamese woman with glasses and straight dark brown hair. She describes this woman as really happy and talkative. She even said that they had an in-depth conversation about her tendinitis and how this woman attended a conference that discussed the rise of people developing tendinitis from their phone usage. Now, the specialist stated that if after a few weeks her hand wasn't getting better, to come back to be re-examined. So a couple of weeks later, she returned to see the same doctor. However, the woman appeared completely different. This woman was Caucasian with no glasses and light brown hair. They had different personalities, were not the same woman, but had the same name. The woman then described to the new specialist of her encounter with the other woman. This new specialist said that it was only her there with that name. Later, she did some research and looked at the hospital directory, but still couldn't find the Vietnamese specialist. She even double-checked her records, and both of her visits say the same doctor's name on them. So it wasn't like she did see two different people. So she claims that she met someone that no longer exists. Now, I was thinking about this. Was this woman an imposter? Probably not. But maybe her other doctor wasn't in during her first appointment and she had the Vietnamese woman as a replacement for that day. Now, there are tons of studies that prove that even our brain can play tricks on us and our memories can fail us. So let's say that she went to go to the office, her doctor wasn't in, and instead she saw the specialist that was filling in, which was the Vietnamese woman. Maybe she didn't catch the woman introduce herself, and since it was just her first time there, she just assumed that the Vietnamese woman was just the regular specialist she would be seeing. That's the only logical explanation I could come up with. If you have any more theories, let me know down below. Alright, moving on to number 4. This story happened about 15 years ago. This one man called up his friend, and when there was no answer, he left a message on his answering machine. In the message he said, "Hey, it's me, sorry I missed your call you later, bye." He went on with his day until he got a call from his friend asking what the deal with the message was and asking who the girl he was with was. But he stated that he wasn't with a girl. So the friend brought him over to his house and they listened to the message together. After his message that he recorded, there was about 30 to 40 more seconds of him talking to some girl. He knew it was himself because he recognized his own voice and mannerisms, but he doesn't know who the girl was, nor does he remember even leaving that half of the message. He claims that the conversation that he had with the girl was about going skiing and then him having to go to his car shop and work on his car first. Then the message ended. To this day, he can't explain what happened or even figure out who the girl he was talking to was. Next, we have number 3. Now, this next individual got a little lost while on their way to a location due to a train station being under construction with lots of restricted areas. So in order to find his way around, he was using Google Maps. Now, Google Maps instructed him to go through this one path that was off limits. There was a plywood wall with a sign that read "Under construction, unauthorized access, forbidden, no entry." However, he claims that people were entering and exiting through this door like it was no big deal. He also said that these people looked out of place. They weren't construction workers, but they were still going in and out of the restricted area. Now, he thought that since other people were doing it, that he would trust Google Maps and go through it as well. He decided to follow a guy in through the door. However, when he emerged through the other side, it was an empty area completely under construction. The guy who he followed in was nowhere to be seen. Google Maps was telling him to keep going along this unpaved path. However, a man driving a construction tractor drove by him and gave him a weird look. He knew that he was out of place, so he decided to head back. When he went back through the door, other individuals were looking at him weirdly, just as he did when he saw the people. So basically, people were spawning and despawning out of nowhere. Literally as if they were just being created or deleted from a game. Maybe he just dreamt of this situation, or maybe Google Maps literally pointed him in the direction of the spawn point for humans in the world. We are now at our second spot. This one is by far one of the trippiest ones. It was submitted by the Reddit user Musical Moses. He states that him and his buddies were returning home from a road trip. He just got off the phone with his parents and told them that they would be home in about 25 minutes. However, as they continued driving, they rounded the corner and the road ahead of them was completely empty. There were no cars ahead or behind them. He then claims that everything went black for a moment. The dashboard lights went off and even the headlights. Even the music stopped playing. Then everything went back to normal. The CD restarted from the beginning, and they now could see a car ahead of them being pulled over by a cop, which wasn't there a second ago. Now, the passenger just shook it off, thinking he fell asleep and then woke up later on. But the other passengers in the car all experienced the same thing, even the driver. The scariest thing of all was that the clock showed that it was an hour later, and when they arrived to the house, even their parents asked what took them so long, when they said they were only 25 minutes away. So all of them lost an hour of time and don't know what happened. Some people believe that they were tired from the road trip and dozed off, but everyone at the same time, and even the driver who somehow still managed to steer the car, doesn't make sense to me. And he's one good of a driver if he can drive while sleeping. And in our number one spot, we have the man who called himself. I mean, I hate answering my phone as it is, but imagine picking up the phone and talking to yourself on the other line, because that's literally what happened to this next dude. In the early 2000s, a man by the name of Taylor was working as a corrections officer in a juvenile detention center in Oklahoma. Now, one night he arrived at work and his supervisor asked him what he was doing there. Apparently, he called in a few hours prior to his shift saying he was sick and couldn't come in. For that moment, the whole night kept getting weirder. He went on to look at the notes taken from when he called in sick. It was noted that he called in at 6:50 and said he was sick while outside cleaning up after the storm. Taylor said that there was a storm the night before, but there was nothing outside that he really cleaned up. Continuing on, he was a little freaked out and decided to call his wife to talk about it. But when he called, a man answered the phone. He checked the phone to make sure that it was the right number that he dialed, and it was. Taylor asked this man who he is, and he says, "This is Taylor. Who is this?" Taylor then asks Taylor where his wife Ann is, and the man says that she's in bed. Now Taylor rushed home to check on his wife and found her on the couch watching TV. He tried to call his work from home, but the phone line was dead. When he returned back to work, his buddy Dave told him that he picked up the phone after him and the guy on the phone sounded just like him, but he witnessed Taylor leaving, so it couldn't have been. Later on that night, he found out that the phone line had been knocked over that night before by the storm. Whew. Now, one guy commented saying that he believes in one reality, Taylor went outside to fix the phone line and that's how he got sick. He then called into work saying he couldn't come. But in the other reality, the other version of Taylor didn't go outside and didn't get sick, which caused a glitch and is why he was able to communicate with himself.
Imagine a world where history occasionally malfunctions, where the line between coincidence and the impossible blurs, leaving us questioning the very fabric of reality. From eerie predictions that come true decades later to identical tragedies repeating themselves with uncanny precision, some events in history are so bizarre that they feel like glitches in the Matrix. Buckle up as we dive into the most mind-bending coincidences in history that might just make you wonder if our reality is as stable as we think. The Curse of Tamerlane's Tomb is one of those eerie tales that makes you wonder if history sometimes has a supernatural twist. In 1941, Soviet archaeologists decided to open the tomb of Tamerlane, a formidable 14th century Turco-Mongol conqueror. Inside, they found a chilling inscription that read, quote, "Whomsoever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." Just 3 days later, an invasion of the Soviet Union began, leading many to believe that the curse had been triggered by disturbing the tomb. The timing was so uncanny that it's hard not to see it as something more than just coincidence. Interestingly, the curse is also linked to the Soviet victory in a major battle, which some attribute to Tamerlane's remains being reburied according to Islamic tradition shortly before the tide turned. Whether you believe in curses or not, the story of Tamerlane's tomb certainly adds a mysterious layer to the events of that extremely turbulent time in history. The King Umberto I coincidence is one of those stories that feels like it could only happen in a novel, but it's actually entirely true. In 1900, King Umberto I of Italy decided to dine at a small restaurant where he was astonished to find that the owner was his exact double. But the similarities didn't stop there. Both men shared the same name, were born on the same day in the same town, and even married women named Margarita. It's the kind of coincidence coincidence that makes you question whether the universe was playing some kind of cosmic joke. The next day, things took an even stranger turn. The restaurant owner was tragically shot and killed. Later, that very same day, King Umberto I met a similar fate as he was assassinated during a public event. The bizarre series of events leaves us wondering if this was more than just chance, a glitch in reality where two identical lives were eerily intertwined and ended in the same tragic manner. I don't know, it's insane. Like, I can't explain that at all. Not even the death thing is like crazy, but it's like, how do they have the same name, born on the same day, in the same town, married people of the same name? Like, that just, it's too much for me. The cross-country coincidence is one of those stories that seems too strange to be true. In 1975, Erskine Lawrence Eben was tragically struck and killed by a taxi while riding his moped in Bermuda. What makes this incident truly mind-boggling is that it was an almost exact replay of a tragedy that occurred exactly 1 year earlier. In 1974, Erskine's brother Neville was also riding that same moped in the same intersection when he was killed by the same taxi, driven by the same driver and even carrying the same passenger. I could not have said same more in that sentence. The chances of such a precise and tragic repetition are so astronomically low that it feels like reality just momentarily glitched, playing out the same fatal scenario twice as if stuck in a loop. It's like a nightmare Groundhog Day. This eerie coincidence leaves us wondering if there's something more at play, something beyond mere chance that defies our understanding of how the world works. If anybody knows, let me know. The phantom time hypothesis is one of the most mind-bending ideas to come out of historical theory, almost like it's from a science fiction novel. Proposed by historian Herbert Illig, this theory suggests that the period between 614 and 911 AD never actually happened. That it was just entirely fabricated. According to Illig, this would mean that we're not actually living in 2024, but rather in 1727, with nearly 300 years of history being nothing more than an elaborate collective illusion. The implications of this theory are staggering, as it would mean that events like Charlemagne's reign and the early Middle Ages were either exaggerated or just completely invented. This idea of a massive historical glitch where entire centuries were inserted into the timeline challenges everything we think we know about history. While mainstream historians remain skeptical, the phantom time hypothesis continues to fascinate those who enjoy pondering whether our understanding of the past, and by extension, our present, might be based on a glitch in reality itself. Just one other thing to send me into an existential crisis. I love it. Alright. The mystery of the London hammer is one of those puzzling discoveries that challenges our understanding of history and just leaves us questioning reality itself. In 1936, a hammer was found in London, Texas, but this wasn't just any ordinary tool. The hammer was embedded in rock that, according to geological estimates, is around 400 million years old. An era long before humans, let alone their tools, were supposed to exist. This bizarre find has baffled scientists and sparked all sorts of theories, from the possibility of time slips to the idea of alternate realities where different timelines somehow intersected. How could a man-made object end up trapped in ancient rock? The hammer's presence in such an anachronistic setting is more than just a curiosity, it is a mystery that seems to defy the laws of time and logic, making me wonder if it's evidence of a glitch in the fabric of reality itself. I don't know. I can't explain any of these things we're speaking about. I'm just here to report the news and then stress about it later. The connection between Sir Anthony Hopkins and the girl from Petrovka is a story that feels like it was just lifted straight out of the movie itself. While preparing for his role in the film adaptation of the novel, Hopkins was eager to read the book to get a better understanding of his character, a real professional. However, despite searching everywhere, he couldn't find a copy. Then, in a very weird twist of fate, he stumbled upon a copy left on a random park bench, as if the universe had placed it there just for him. The story gets even stranger when Hopkins later met the book's author. During their conversation, the author mentioned that he had lent his last copy of the book to a friend who had unfortunately lost it on a park bench. The chances of Hopkins finding that very copy are so slim that it has to be a glitch in reality where the lines between coincidence and destiny blur. It just makes us wonder, is there some unseen force that was at play just ensuring that Hopkins got his hands on this very elusive book? I don't know, it's just too strange. I can't explain it, it freaks me out. The strange life of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette is filled with many twists and turns, but one particular coincidence stands out as almost too eerie to ignore. On June 21st, 1791, the royal couple was arrested while attempting to escape from France during the height of the French Revolution, a moment that marked the beginning of their tragic downfall. However, what makes this event even more uncanny is a seemingly innocent diary entry made by Louis XVI exactly 18 years earlier. On that same day, June 21st, Louis wrote that he hoped never to undertake a journey on that day again, as if he had some premonition of what the future held. Fast forward almost 2 decades, and the date he had hoped to avoid became the very day his fate was sealed. This peculiar coincidence adds a mysterious layer to their story, making me wonder if this was more than just a quirk of history, perhaps a glitch in reality, where destiny and foresight collided in an unforgettable way. The mysterious case of Joseph Figlock is a story that almost defies belief. In 1950, Figlock, an ordinary man in Detroit, was walking down the street when out of nowhere, a baby fell from a high window and landed directly on him. Both he and the baby survived the frightening incident, okay, don't freak out, with Figlock's presence likely having saved the child's life. As if this wasn't bizarre enough, a year later, Figlock found himself in an almost identical situation. Once again, he was walking the same street and another baby fell from the exact same window and landed on him. Incredibly, both he and the baby survived this second fall as well. The odds of such an event happening once are super low, but twice? It's the kind of coincidence that makes you wonder if reality just glitched. You know, we're back in the loop, we're back in Groundhog's Day. At least this one has a happy ending though, you know? That's something I can get behind. Edgar Allan Poe's novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, written in 1838, tells the haunting tale of a shipwreck where the desperate survivors, driven to the brink, resort to consuming one of their own, ultimately sacrificing a cabin boy named Richard Parker. As eerie as this fictional story is, reality took a chilling turn nearly 50 years later when, in 1884, a real shipwreck unfolded under strikingly similar circumstances. The survivors, stranded and starving, made the harrowing decision to kill and consume one of their own to stay alive. In a twist that seems almost too bizarre to be true, the unfortunate victim was also a cabin boy, and his name was Richard Parker. The uncanny resemblance between Poe's dark fiction and the grim reality that followed has led many to wonder if this was more than just a coincidence. Honestly, I myself, since I heard this story a few years ago, have been convinced that Edgar Allan Poe's a time traveler. I don't know, that seems more logical than anything else, which is crazy to say. The case of the Carol A. Deering is one of those maritime mysteries that continues to baffle and intrigue, and if you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you've definitely heard the story of the Carol A. Deering before. In 1921, the Carol A. Deering, a commercial schooner, was found mysteriously aground off the coast of North Carolina, with its crew having vanished without a trace. The ship was in good condition, the food was laid out as if the crew had simply just stepped away, yet there was no sign of the men anywhere. What makes this case even stranger is that another ship, the SS Hewitt, disappeared around the same time and in the same general area, adding to the sense that something otherworldly might have been at play. These two eerie events happening so close together have fueled theories of mysterious phenomenon. Whether it was a Bermuda Triangle type scenario, or an interdimensional glitch, or I don't know, something else entirely. The Carol A. Deering remains a haunting reminder that some corners of history might just be too strange to fully understand, leaving us to wonder if these events were part of a reality that momentarily went off script.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the basement phone. One Reddit user said that he used to work in a basement lab with a phone on the wall. He had the only key to get inside of that room. He would often work there at night, alone, but this particular night they were sleeping in their own apartment. That's when he got the call from his girlfriend at 3 in the morning. She was in hysterics, asking why he scared her. He told her he had no idea what she was talking about. She said she had just got a call from that basement phone where he worked about a minute earlier. It was someone with his exact voice slowly repeating her name over and over again until it finally crackled and faded out. At first he thought she must have been lying, but then he saw the 3 AM call from the basement phone on her own cell phone. He said it still freaks him out to this day, and now it's probably gonna freak me out too. Alright, it's getting even more intense now with our number 9 story, the dog walk. This guy's story starts with him walking his dog in a park with a lot of dew on the grass. Suddenly his dog stops, looks across the park, and just starts growling. He looks to where the dog is staring, and there is another guy with the dog about 100 yards away, standing next to a large tree. He's walking towards him, but he doesn't seem to be going anywhere, like a stationary moonwalk. The guy decides to investigate, but as he walks across the park to the man, his dog starts freaking out even more, sticking to his leg and whining. He notices that the man is actually walking away, not any closer. He gets to where he originally was, by the large tree, and notices a perfect circle on the ground, about 10 inches of dry, dew-free grass. He looks up and sees the guy isn't ahead of him anymore. He is back on the other side of the park where he was originally standing, dog by his side. The man stares at them and then starts to walk towards them. He freaks out and quickly walks out of the park. Many of his friends are convinced that he saw himself in some sort of parallel universe time loop. Creepy. Coming in at the number 8 spot now, we have The Voice. Reddit user Pistachio said that when they were a little kid, their family were driving to a beach when they got lost in an industrial area. They were following the other car when suddenly they had to take quite a hard turn around a corner. At that very moment, they all heard a very clear, very loud voice inside the car laugh and say, "Sharp bend, hmm?" The driver slammed on their brakes. They looked around. None of the voices matched their own. The rest of the family had also stopped in the car in front. They got out and came over with a very scared look on their face and said, "Did you guys hear that as well?" They had heard the exact same disembodied voice in their own car. The area was deserted. They had no idea where it had come from. Coming out at the number 7 spot now, we have The Old Man. Parrot Tamer told a story on Reddit from his childhood of when he was 12 years old. He was waiting in the car for his mum one day to finish shopping when an old man walked towards him. He stopped about 5 feet away from the car and stared at him with a look as if he knew too much. The man quickly turned around and walked the other way. Years later, he was watching a home video of his family at Yellowstone National Park. In the background, he saw the same old man in the crowd from his memories. He was staring right at the camera and out of the TV. He was too freaked out to ever watch the video again. Other Reddit users think this is a glitch in the Matrix story, or perhaps even a time travel story. What do you guys think? Alright, at the number 6 spot now, we have Red Roses. This story comes from Reddit user You're a Moron. He said that one day he was catching a train, and while he was on the platform, a homeless woman asked him for change so she could buy flowers for her brother in hospital. He gave her $5 and then his train pulled up. He gets on the train, and as it starts moving, he sees the woman on the platform asking other people for money. 15 minutes later, he arrives at the other station. He gets out, gets on his bus. The bus travels for another 10 minutes and then pulls over for a routine stop. The doors open, and to his complete astonishment, the woman from before gets on the bus. She had 12 roses in her hand. She looked at him in the eyes and then continued to her seat. He replayed the whole event in his head over and over again, trying to figure out how she could have possibly caught up to him. Alright, at the number 5 spot now, we have the missing hour. Reddit user Musical Moses said that one day he was in the car returning from a trip with 2 friends. His parents called to ask when he would be home, and he said they were about 25 minutes away. Just after that, there was a bend in the road and they saw the full moon and its reflection in a nearby lake. Suddenly, everything went dark, and I mean everything. There was no light in the car, no headlights on the road. The music on their CD stopped completely. A second later, it started again, but from the beginning of the CD. The road that was empty ahead of them now had a vehicle pulled over by the police that wasn't there a second ago. He thought he must have fallen asleep for a moment, but then the driver asked him, "Did you just experience that as well?" Both he and the driver had experienced the exact same thing, and neither of them had an explanation. Coming in at number 4 now, we have the computer desk. This story comes from Reddit user White Zombie Cat. He said one day he got home from dinner and saw his wife was working at the computer like she normally does at that time. Except there was just one thing. He had just been for dinner with her, and she was entering the house with him. He thought he was just seeing things and maybe he was just tired, so he shook it off and went right to bed. Just before they went to sleep, he told her that he had seen her sitting at the computer when they came in. He thought she would think he was mad or something. Her face went completely white with shock, and slowly she said that she too had seen herself sitting at the computer when they came in, but she didn't want to say anything in case he thought she was crazy. I personally hope they're both crazy because that's pretty creepy. Alright, at the number 3 spot now we have the dead uncle. This Reddit user told a story about the day their uncle died. On that day their mum called them to tell them the news. They were obviously devastated and talked for hours. They told one of their co-workers who expressed their condolences. A few weeks later their sister mentioned their aunt and uncle doing something together. They said no, but he's dead. The sister said no. They called their mum, who confirmed that the uncle was alive and well. They spent weeks trying to figure out how their brain could have fabricated such a vivid event. Some people believe stories like this are examples of parallel universes colliding, a world in which the uncle died and one in which he didn't. Coming in at number 2 now, we have the alley. Reddit user A Lot of Italics shared this very creepy story. They said that one day they were walking to work in their city when suddenly they had a strong urge to walk a different way. It changed their life forever. They went down an alley they had never seen before, and almost immediately it happened. Their brain got completely scrambled and went into meltdown. They felt like they didn't even have a body anymore. They were almost just a semi-conscious entity floating in another dimension. Then the swirling colours and visions turned into a group of businessmen in suits who were surprised that they could be seen. One of them made a quick movement and everything turned to black. When they returned to normality, they were on a different street, the same street they normally walk to work on. They felt sick, disturbed and depressed. They said they have never taken drugs or had hallucinations before, and the memory still haunts them to this day. Alright, finally at number 1 now we have The Flash. Reddit user Classic Jenny shared a story about her friend's parents, Steve and Julie. They were woken up at 1 AM by a loud thud noise. Steve went down to check on their 3 kids, but found them all sound asleep. He looked around the house for the source of the noise, and he even checked outside, but couldn't find anything. He went back to his room where he found Julie with a shocked look on her face and in total panic. She said it was now 4 AM and he had been missing for 3 hours. She said she had looked everywhere for him, even outside, and couldn't find him. Sure enough, it was 4 AM on the clock. The next day, Steve went to work, and after a few hours, his eyes started burning. His eyelids felt like sandpaper. He was rushed to hospital where doctors treated his eyes for 2nd-degree flash burns. That's about the equivalent of holding a welder's torch right in front of your eyes for a few minutes. Some people jump straight to alien abductions, but other people think Steve experienced a jump between parallel universes in those 3 hours, although he will probably never know the truth.
At number 10 is Stephen Hawking's very last theory. The late Stephen Hawking, a big name in physics, left us with a curious theory right before his passing. You see, he believed in the existence of other parallel universes apart from our own. Hawking's final paper, co-authored by Thomas Hertog, aimed to lay down the math for a space probe that could spot evidence of these other universes, also known as the multiverse. So picture multiple universes, not just many planets, but entire realities entirely. Some are empty, others teeming with black holes, stars, and potentially life. See, this idea springs from the Big Bang Theory, the concept that the universe expanded from a singular tiny point. See, Hawking figured that our Big Bang was just one of countless others, each spawning its own universe. But there's no scientific test to actually prove the existence of these universes. This uncertainty bothered Hawking, and he wasn't a huge fan of the multiverse concept, yet he knew that to ignore it was a big mistake. Like having a theory that doesn't say anything about our universe is pretty useless. But in his final scientific quest, Hawking aimed to control the multiverse. He and Hertog developed the math for a space probe able to detect gravitational waves from multiple different Big Bangs. Thus, they believed they could test the multiverse theory, giving us an actual shot at finding evidence. Their paper, which is titled A Smooth Exit from Eternal Inflation, submitted just before Hawking Hawking's passed away got scientists buzzing. Some say that this paper could have scored Hawking another Nobel Prize if it was just published just a little bit earlier. The ideas opened the door to finding proof of other universes, which is a mind-blowing prospect in the scientific realm. At number 9 is filling gaps in the scientific understanding with the multiverse. There are a whole ton of things that just don't currently add up in our cosmic playground. Take dark matter for instance. We literally have no idea what it is or how it operates, and yet it is the explanation for why our universe keeps expanding at an accelerating rate. You see, galaxies are supposed to be getting closer together thanks to the mutual pull of gravity, and yet here's this basically undetectable force that's overcoming the force of gravity and doing so at an exponential rate. This discovery implies the existence of a dark energy that counteracts gravity on cosmic scales, and yet the only thing that we know about dark energy is its name. Now, scientists have attempted to come up with a few different explanations for the origin of this counter-gravitational energy. One explanation is that, according to quantum theory, subatomic particles are constantly and spontaneously manifesting themselves into existence and then annihilating themselves out of existence. This process should endow the vacuum of space with energy, which could explain the whole, expanding universe thing. However, that energy would be 120 orders of magnitude too large to explain the anti-gravity effects that we witness in space. And so, the multiverse concept ties those ideas together in a neat little bow, claiming that perhaps in this universe, dark matter just isn't as strong as it should be, whereas in other universes, it's literally tearing everything apart. But that's not the only gap in our knowledge that the multiverse theory fills so gracefully. For instance, take string theory, which says there are like 11 different dimensions, but I don't know about you, but I only see 4. Now that's a bit odd, but some scientists think that maybe string theory isn't just about our universe, but every possible universe out there. Also, have you ever considered about how everything just seems just perfect for life to exist in our universe? Like the strength of forces between particles and how atoms stick together. Well, as it turns out, if there were more dimensions like string theory claims to be, then things definitely would not work out for life like it does here. So this multiverse idea could mean there are lots of different universes out there where life totally didn't exist at all. And maybe, just maybe, we're in one of those very few special ones where everything just worked out just perfectly for life to thrive. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8 is the Bicep 2 gravity waves. So there are these crazy cool ripples in space called gravitational waves. They're like essentially messages from way back when the universe was just a baby. Now these waves are discovered by the Bicep 2 team, which holds some seriously mind-blowing hints about the existence of our universe. So you know how after the Big Bang things expanded super fast? Well, these waves suggest that the expansion wasn't a one-time deal. It's almost as if the universe hit the fast forward button multiple times, creating not just one, but a bunch of universes. And get this, the other universes might not play by the same rules as ours. They could be totally different, maybe with extra dimensions, like I previously mentioned, or bizarre stuff we can't even wrap our heads around. Plus, they might be way far off, like beyond what we can spy on with even the best space gadgets. So what Bicep 2 found was like stumbling upon a map to a whole new multi-dimensional world, hinting that our universe might just be a tiny piece of something unimaginably vast. At number 7 is the AMS experiment positron excess. A whole bunch of antimatter particles were discovered just hanging out in space. Picture them as the mirror image of the regular matter that makes up everything we see around us. We're still trying to figure out exactly where these particles are coming from, and one explanation is neighboring universes. Allow me to explain. Now there's a super cool gadget called the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, or AMS for short. It's perched up there on the International Space Station, keeping close watch on antimatter particles. And so the AMS found something really strange, a way larger number of these opposite twin particles, known as positrons, than anybody expected. The discovery was a cosmic clue pointing towards the existence of dark matter. So dark matter is the invisible substance actually making up a whopping chunk of our universe, even though we can't actually see it. Scientists have a hunch that when dark matter particles collide, they produce the very positrons that the AMS is spotting. This discovery of excess positrons could potentially be an evidence at the existence of another universe. You see, if dark matter exists and behaves like scientists think it does, then it could be a bridge in the understanding of our universe with the multiverse. But unfortunately, we can't know for sure because science just ain't there yet. We're in the middle of this cosmic puzzle trying to figure out if these positrons are truly pointing us towards dark matter or if there's something else entirely going on in the universe. At number 6 is the cosmic microwave background. So the cosmic microwave background radiation is kind of like a glow that fills the entire universe. It's the afterglow of the Big Bang, the moment when the universe burst into existence. Now scientists study the cosmic microwave background to understand the early universe better. It's incredibly uniform, but there are tiny temperature fluctuations within it. These fluctuations have helped scientists map the distribution of matter in the early universe. Now here's where this idea gets intriguing in terms of the multiverse idea. You see, some researchers have observed that these strange odd cold spots in the cosmic microwave background don't fit expected patterns. These spots are unusually big and cold compared to what current models predict. Now one hypothesis is that these cold spots might be evidence of collisions between our universe and another parallel universe. The idea is that if our universe collide or interact in some way with another, it could leave a mark on the cosmic microwave background, manifesting as these peculiar cold spots. It's a speculative idea and there's no definitive proof yet, but still, the study of these anomalies in the cosmic microwave background adds fuel to the conversation about the possibility of a multiverse. At number 5 is the fifth force and muon's magnetic moment. Muons are like the heavier cousins of electrons, playing a big role in the world of subatomic particles. Scientists at a Fermilab do this cool experiment where they trap billions of muons in a ring and watch them closely as they move. Now these muons, they have a magnetic quality that make them wobble as they zip around the ring. Now in the science world, there's this thing called the standard model that predicts how these muons should wobble. But here's the twist. Sometimes what they actually do doesn't match up with the standard model's predictions whatsoever. Now here's where it gets interesting. See, if these muons act differently, it might mean that there's something else out there, a mysterious particle, maybe a whole new force of nature influencing these muons. It could also mean that there's a whole new other set of rules in a parallel universe interacting with our own. Think of it as us glimpsing into another reality, something where the rules just don't line up with what we have here. At number 4 is quantum entanglement. In quantum physics, particles get tangled up together, and when that happens, their properties become connected. Even if one of these particles ends up super far away, what happens to one particle affects the other instantaneously, breaking the rules of how we understand space and time. Now, how does this link back to the multiverse? Well, some scientists wonder if quantum entanglement could be a sign of parallel universes being connected to one another. The theory goes that if particles in our universe can be entangled, then what's stopping them from being entangled with particles in other universes too, like they're communicating across different realities. So if particles can be connected across vast distances in our universe, maybe the entanglement stretches into other realities, hinting at a network between different versions of reality. Might be a mind-boggling idea that quantum entanglement might be a key that unlocks the door to the existence of parallel universes. And number 3 is Leo Broussard at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So scientists at Oak Ridge National Labs have been on the hunt for something pretty wild, which is the multiverse itself. They're using neutrons, tiny subatomic particles that hang out at atoms, to find clues about this idea of a mirror neutron, a right-handed universe, kind of like the opposite of our left-handed one. It's kind of like an experiment where they're trying to break into the Stranger Things, you know, the upside down there. They're shooting these neutrons into a tube, hoping they'll sneak through a blocked end into the other side, basically looking for signs of where a parallel universe doesn't line up with our own. But unfortunately, there hasn't been any luck so far. The scientists admitted that they haven't spotted any evidence of parallel universes or strange interactions with these neurons flying through what they call the dark sector. They're not giving up though. More sensitive experiments are in the cards, so we might hear more about this experiment in the future. The scientists made it clear that finding something new here doesn't automatically mean that they've found a whole new dimension. It could just mean that they've got a better grasp on the particles that make up our own universe. At number 2 is the multiverse created in the lab. In 2013, researchers delved into the realms of parallel universes at the University of Maryland and College and Towson University. Through an unconventional experiment involving metamaterials reminiscent of invisibility cloaks, they sparked the birth of multiple universes within a lab-created multiverse. These alternate realms, referred to as Minkowski spacetimes, elegantly incorporate time as a fourth dimension, aligning neatly with Einstein's special relativity. Astonishingly, the setup behind this cosmic wizardry is surprisingly straightforward, relying on a solution of cobalt-immersed kerosene. It's a captivating testament to human ingenuity, demonstrating demonstrating that we can, in a sense, engineer our own universes, offering tantalizing hints at the existence of parallel ones, because if we can simulate our own universes, who's to say that our universe isn't simulated? And at number 1 is the Anita experiment, the scientific discovery that proves single-handedly the existence of parallel universes. Imagine a remote research station in Antarctica where scientists diligently hunt for cosmic rays. Now that's intriguing on its own, but it gets better. See, naturally, they had their instruments facing the sky, but then these researchers suddenly detect not one, but 2 signals shooting out of the ground beneath them, defying all logic. You see, these rays of neutrinos are supposed to come from supernova, so it's super improbable that these rays are passing through the Earth without coming into contact with this single particle of matter, only to land on a tiny weather balloon in the sky. So to make sense of this, scientists delved into over 40 papers offering a buffet of explanations like dark matter, elusive particles called sterile neutrinos, and then, the grandest of them all, a parallel universe. Essentially a mirror image of our own, but where time runs backwards. This audacious idea isn't pulled out of thin air, it's rooted in actual science, a theorem which hints that alongside our universe, an antimatter universe stretches backwards through time before the Big Bang. But let's tap on the brakes here, because there are more down-to-earth theories that have surfaced. So hold your antimatter horses, because as it turns out, it's more likely that these signals were reflected off the ice or skipped off subglacial lakes. The truth, it seems, is more grounded in reality, reflecting high energy particles, not parallel dimensions. Sorry y'all, I mean, unless you want to go ahead and put away Occam's razor. At number 10, a multiverse created in the lab. In 2013, researchers delved into the realms of parallel universes at the University of Maryland, College Park, and Towson University. Through an unconventional experiment involving metamaterials reminiscent of invisibility cloaks, they sparked the birth of multiple universes within a lab-crafted multiverse. These alternate realms, referred to as Minkowski spacetimes, share a striking resemblance to our own, but they elegantly incorporate time as the 4th dimension, aligning neatly with Einstein's special relativity. Astonishingly, the setup behind this cosmic wizardry is surprisingly straightforward, relying on a solution of cobalt immersed in kerosene. It's a captivating testament to human ingenuity, demonstrating that we can, in a sense, engineer our own universes, offering tantalizing hints of the existence of parallel ones. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9, quantum immortality. Concept born from the mind-bending world of quantum mechanics challenges our understanding of existence itself. In this thought experiment turned intriguing hypothesis, Max Tegmark delves into the idea that we might encounter multiple demises throughout our lives. So picture this. With every brush with mortality, our consciousness dances across the multiverse, slipping into the nearest timeline where our demise was narrowly avoided. It's a notion that, at first glance, may seem kind of like science fiction, but it has gained traction among those who claim to have undergone these shifts, myself included. The scientific community remains skeptical, dismissing it as a mere fantastical notion. However, for some, the reality has been altered in ways they can't explain. They recount near unaliving experiences as evidence, pointing to moments where they distinctly felt the universe pivot around them. The shift is often unnoticed until later on, leaving individuals to trace subtle differences in their new reality, like the ripples of earlier choices echoing through their existence. At number 8 is the glitch in the Matrix. Have you ever pondered the enigmatic signs of parallel universes lurking within the annals of history? The notion that we may inhabit a cosmic computer simulation governed by these unseen puppeteers in a parallel realm is as intriguing as it is unsettling. Consider the perplexing incidents that defy logical explanation. Objects that inexplicably vanish only to reappear, like my cell phone, as if manipulated by an unforeseen digital hand. Witnesses recounting the same individual in different locales simultaneously, or their sudden disappearances and inexplicable reappearance after extensive searches, raising unsettling questions about our reality. Then there are the anomalies in our mundane surroundings, where everyday objects undergo inexplicable transformations. Time itself, our constant companion, appears to warp and falter, with reports of time slips and eerie time freezes defying our understanding. Even more disconcerting, some of these glitches have been captured on camera, offering tantalizing glimpses into the possible fissures of our simulated universe. Are we all but unwitting pawns in a grand experiment? The prospect is both fascinating and terrifying. And to those with the unseen controllers, if you're listening, well, you know what to do. At number 7, the cosmic bruise. In 2017, cosmologists stumbled upon a cosmic anomaly that sent shockwaves through the scientific community, the enigmatic cold spot in the universe. Now, it's not just any cosmic bruise. It could be a lingering mark from a cataclysmic event, a collision between our universe and another. As Professor Tom Shanks of Durham University Center of Extragalactic Astronomy suggests, this cold spot might be the fossilized signature of an interdimensional encounter, a moment when our reality clashed with one of the countless others that make up this cosmic tapestry. What's truly mind-boggling is that this isn't an isolated incident. Researchers have discovered not one, but 4 of these mysterious bruises. This revelation implies that our universe has been involved in multiple inter-universal rendezvous throughout its existence. The implications are staggering. They hint at the existence of a multiverse, a mind-bending landscape of alternate realities where anything might be possible. At number 6, the Large Hadron Collider. Last year, the behemoth of science, the Large Hadron Collider, roared back to life after 3 years of meticulous upgrades. But what's all the hype? Well, it's not just about smashing particles together anymore. It's about probing the very fabric of the universe. The Higgs boson, the elusive God particle, is on the menu, and dark matter is the dessert. And it might just be the tool to unlock the secrets of a parallel universe. How, you ask? Well, it's all about those sneaky extra dimensions. In the world of theoretical physics, they're like hidden rooms in the cosmic mansion. Picture this: if extra dimensions do exist, there should be heavier versions of standard particles called Kaluza-Klein states. These lookalikes, but with more heft, could be the breadcrumbs leading us into parallel universe. If the Large Hadron Collider detectors spot a Z negative or W negative like particle with a mass of 100 times or greater, it could be the clue we've been waiting for. So brace yourself, because with the Large Hadron Collider, we might just peel back the layers of reality and find the signs of a parallel universe. At number 5, the Mandela effect is a mind-bending puzzle that thrusts us into the intriguing realm of collective false memories. Fiona Broom's encounter with the phenomenon in 2010 sent shockwaves through our understanding of memory and reality. The curious case of Nelson Mandela's demise, while many were calling it occurring in the 1980s while he was imprisoned, challenges our grasp on historical facts. But it doesn't stop there. Classic tales like Snow White and Star Wars warp our perceptions collectively, as we mistakenly remember Mirror, Mirror on the Wall and Luke, I am your father, when the actual lines are subtly different. The Berenstein Bears, once spelt with an E, now boasts an A, while Oscar Mayer has taken a new dimension with its A instead of an E. These anomalies raise questions about parallel universes and reality shifts. Are our false memories glimpses into alternate dimensions, or simply quirks of the human cognition? At number 4, our own simulated universe. In 2018, researchers embarked on a colossal computer simulation endeavor, fashioning entirely new universes amid diverse circumstances. Now, what they unearthed was nothing short of mind-bending. These parallel realities could emerge even with dark energy levels starkly deviating from our own. As study co-author Pascal Elahi eloquently noted, quote, even in universes with 300 times as much dark energy as ours, life found a way, end quote. This revelation underscores the resilience of life amidst the tumultuous cosmic dance. Elahi's insight took us deeper into the cosmic rabbit hole. Accelerated expansion fueled by dark energy appeared to have a negligible sway over the birth of stars and the emergence of life-bearing worlds. Consequently, the existence of planets teeming with life within alternate universes became a tantalizing possibility. At number 3 is the third man syndrome, a phenomenon that often accompanies harrowing accidents, raising eerie questions about the possibility of parallel universes intersecting with our reality. See, victims of life-threatening situations report an inexplicable presence offering guidance and encouragement. Is this a celestial entity watching over us, or perhaps an alternate version of ourselves from a parallel universe reaching out to prevent our own demise? The widespread accounts of this phenomenon add to its mystique. Could this be a glimpse into the multiverse where infinite variations of our existence coexist? The mysterious signs of parallel universes manifest in these moments of despair, challenging our understanding of reality. While we can't definitively explain third man syndrome, the comfort it provides to those facing tragedy is undeniable, offering a glimmer of hope in the mysterious tapestry of existence. At number 2, black holes or black gateways. Black holes, those mysterious cosmic entities, have long fascinated scientists and sparked intriguing theories. One theory, first proposed by Mr. Stephen Hawking himself, suggests that black holes might serve as gateways to other dimensions or parallel universes. The idea here is that whatever enters a black hole isn't obliterated, but rather transported to an entirely different realm. Now, we know that black holes indeed possess 2 openings, and this fact fact alone lends credibility to the notion that it might connect to separate realities. Imagine the possibilities. What if these mysterious phenomena are cosmic wormholes leading to parallel dimensions? It's a concept that challenges our understanding of the universe and beckons us to explore the unknown. And while the idea of volunteering into a venture into a black hole may seem far-fetched, it's a testament to humanity's unquenchable curiosity. Who knows what secrets these cosmic enigmas might hold, and what remarkable discoveries await those brave enough to embark on such a cosmic journey. And at number 1, the Anita experiment, the scientific discovery that proves single-handedly the existence of parallel universes. The claim begins with a hook that would tingle the spidey senses of any sci-fi enthusiast. Imagine a remote research station in Antarctica where scientists diligently hunt for cosmic rays. Now, that's intriguing enough on its own, but it gets even better. See, naturally they had their instruments facing the sky, but then these researchers suddenly detect not one, but 2 signals shooting out of the ground beneath them, defying all logic. See, these rays of neutrinos are supposed to come from supernova, so it's highly improbable that the rays are passing through the Earth without coming into contact with a single particle of matter, only to land on a tiny weather balloon. To make sense of this, scientists delved into over 40 papers offering a buffet of explanations. Dark matter, elusive particles called sterile neutrinos, and then, the grandest of them all, a parallel universe. Essentially a mirror image of ours, but where time runs backwards. Imagine that. This audacious idea isn't pulled out of thin air either. It's rooted in actual science, a theorem which hints that alongside our universe, an antimatter universe stretches backward through time before the Big Bang. But let's tap the brakes here because a more down-to-earth theory has surfaced. That's right, hold your antimatter horses, because as it turns out, it's more likely that these signals were simply reflected off of ice or skipped off of subglacial lakes. The truth, it seems, is more grounded, reflecting high-energy particles, not parallel dimensions. Sorry y'all, I mean, unless you want to go ahead and put away Occam's razor.
Starting us off at number 10 is the Berenstain Bears. So growing up in the 90s, this one was a classic. It was both an adorable children's book and also a TV show, and I mean, it was just a great story about a family of bears and a memorable part of my childhood. However, you would think, being so memorable and all, we would all be on the same page about how it was spelt. Apparently not. The Berenstain Bears falls victim to the Mandela effect because despite what many remember, the name Berenstain is spelt with an A, like stain. But many, including myself, would put money on the fact that it was Berenstein, like with an E. The first time I read this one, my brain broke a little, and I still have a hard time with it. But let me know, which spelling do you guys remember? Was it an E or with an A? Moving on to number 9, the Monopoly Man. When you think about Monopoly, you probably think about 10-hour games with your siblings that end up in tears, screaming matches, and somehow wanting to play it again, but you also remember that the Monopoly Man had a monocle, right? Apparently not. According to the company, photos, advertisements, and even giant balloons of the Moneybags character, he has never had a monocle. Not once. Yet still, so many people claim to have seen him sporting one for many years. I mean, it all just feels wrong. What parallel universe got the monocle Monopoly Man? Because apparently it wasn't ours. Moving on to number 8, Skechers. Another parallel universe Mandela effect in the spelling department is the popular shoe brand Skechers. Most people agree that the brand Skechers spells their name S-K-E-T-C-H-E-R-S, mostly because, well, it makes a lot of sense, but also because that is how a large amount of the population remember seeing it spelt. However, in reality, or at least in this version of reality, the brand name spells it without a T, so S-K-E-C-H-E-R-S. Now, of course, some people attribute this Mandela effect to just a bad memory or you being a kid and not paying attention to things, which is totally fair, but there are many adults who are sure they bought shoes and the brand spelt the name with a T. So how do you explain that? I don't know, man. What do you guys think? Which one do you remember seeing? Next up at number 7, Pikachu. In the 90s, Pokemon was pretty much the biggest show there was. And if you ask just about any 90s kid, they will likely tell you that they remember Pikachu having a black end on his tail. But apparently, we are all in the same fever dream because the black tip on the end of Pikachu's tail never existed. Ash's Pikachu, along with all the others, had black ends on the ears and a brown base on the tail, but the tip was just plain old yellow. Now with this one, there could be a little bit of a reason aside from a possible clue of a parallel universe as to why we all have this collective memory. It has been proposed that because Pikachu's earlier evolution, Pichu, actually does have a black tail, our little brains remembered that and assumed the black part stayed, which might be one option. But the parallel universe theory is way more fun, so I'm gonna stick with that. Moving on to number 6. Abe Vigoda. Although Abe Vigoda will always be famous for his role in The Godfather, it will never be his biggest claim to fame. That's because in 1982, Vigoda was reported dead by People magazine. The only problem? He didn't actually die for another 30 years. Even crazier is that despite him still being alive and well 5 years later, a local newspaper in New Jersey reported him dead again. Naturally, this became a long-standing joke among comics. In fact, during a roast hour, comedian Jeff Ross said, "My one regret is that Abe Vigoda isn't alive to see this," which was followed by Vigoda jumping up in mock anger from his seat in the audience and shaking his fist at Ross. Thankfully, he seems to have had a good sense of humor about the whole situation, but still, how can not one but two companies declare and publish that a man has died who is very much still alive? Well, some think that's because he might have actually died in a different reality. Interestingly, when the actor actually passed away in 2016, reporters were hesitant to pick up the story just in case it was an error. Moving on to number 5. Fruit of the Loom. The famous underwear company was founded in 1851 and has been a household staple ever since. But it's not the spelling on this one that has people questioning if it's from a parallel universe, but the logo. As you likely know, the logo for the Fruit of the Loom is a bunch of fruit, an apple and some grapes, but some online argue that in the past there was a cornucopia present behind all the produce. The theory started a few years ago in 2018 when a Redditor started a thread in the Mandela Effect subreddit, and they posted a photo of what they remembered the Fruit of the Loom logo looking like, with a cornucopia behind all the fruit. And after they shared that, it turned out they were not alone. The Redditor even allegedly sent a DM to the Fruit of the Loom Instagram account to double check, and the employee who answered confirmed that no, the cornucopia had never existed, but that, quote, "even some of us are still convinced it was a thing." So apparently, despite the collective groupthink, the Fruit of the Loom logo has never, to the best of anyone's knowledge, included a cornucopia in its 130-year existence. Moving on to number 4, Henry VIII. One of the most famous Mandela effects is the well-known portrait of King Henry VIII, painted by Hans Holbein the Younger in 1537. In the photo, the king can be seen holding a glove, except many people don't remember it being a glove at all. They remember it being a turkey leg. Now, some say that the pop culture portrayal of King Henry VIII is to blame for the confusion. For example, in the 1933 film The Private Life of Henry VIII, the king devours almost an entire chicken, and while portraying the king in a 2004 episode of The Simpsons, Homer Simpson also munches on a turkey leg. So culturally, we kind of have this image that he's just always eating a piece of meat, I guess. But not only that, historians believe that King Henry VIII may have been the one to introduce turkey into Christmas feasts. So in that sense, it would make sense for him to be holding one. Still, apparently, according to experts, the turkey leg phenomenon is not real. At least, not in this universe. Moving on to number 3, emojis. There are so many emojis that honestly, when it comes to the lesser used ones, I
I don't think I could tell you what there is or isn't an emoji of. But there are some out there who are sure that they have used emojis that apparently never existed. One of these emojis is a left-facing seahorse. According to one Reddit user, they posted saying that they are dead set and even remember where the seahorse used to sit on the keyboard, to which many other online users agreed that they too remember a left-facing orange seahorse. But interestingly, that is not the only emoji that people remember once existing. Apparently, there has never been a robber. There's never been a slice of pumpkin pie with whipped cream, a hiker, a toaster, or a swordfish. Yet there are many who claim that they have a clear memory of using these emojis. Do any of you remember using these? Do you remember any others that apparently have never existed? Coming in at number 2, Shaggy's Adam's apple. Scooby-Doo was a huge part of so many people's childhoods, but according to some online, there appears to be something missing from the photos of the old cartoons these days. Shaggy's Adam's apple. One Reddit user, CyberGothicChe, posted saying, quote, "As I recall, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo had quite a large Adam's apple. In fact, I believe it was used for comical effect, both when he ate something and also when he gulped in fear. His Adam's apple would move quite a distance, indicating the movement of his throat muscles. Others have also noted that Shaggy has lost his Adam's apple. This seems to be a recent Mandela effect, as I have not heard it prior except once or twice." Now, many other Redditors responded in agreement, saying that they too remembered this Adam's apple. And if I think back to the old cartoons, I wanna say that I remember it too. Now, here is where it gets a little confusing. So there have been tons of different versions of Shaggy, and apparently in one version, the 2015 TV series, he does have an Adam's apple, but none of the other versions show that. Now, some have wondered if this more recent version, including the Adam's apple, is why we remember it always being that way. But then others have pointed out that it would be strange to just give him an Adam's apple out of nowhere if he never had one, even going back to like the 60s. So was it just animators trying something new, or did the Shaggy from another universe slip into this one? And last up in our number 1 spot, Jiffy. Depending on who you ask, the famous peanut butter brand is either called Jif or Jiffy. These days we are being told it was never called Jiffy, but there are some online who remember things a little differently. In a Reddit thread about the Jiffy peanut butter Mandela effect, user Albino Raccoon posted a photo seemingly proving that those who remembered Jiffy peanut butter were not losing their minds. In the post, he shared both a photo and a video of a restaurant menu that advertised what they called a Jiffy burger, and beside it was a photo of the classic peanut butter jar with the word Jiffy written across. Other Redditors responded in support. For example, Berenstain Stain said, quote, "I noticed this change about 10 years ago. Obviously, I didn't know about the Mandela effect at the time, so I assumed they just rebranded it. 10 years later, I find out it never existed. I'd sure love to know how I saw it in my mom's kitchen throughout my childhood then." Now, some think that believers of this particular effect are misremembering Skippy peanut butter, but I mean, what do you guys think? Team Jif or Team Jiffy?
Birds frozen in midair, things disappearing and reappearing, sheep where there shouldn't be sheep. These are 10 signs that you may be experiencing a glitch in reality. The first sign that you're probably experiencing a glitch in reality is that you spot an animal completely frozen in place. Not in a video game you're playing, mind you, but while out in the so-called real world. Sounds crazy? Well, take a look at this. This video was posted to Reddit by user Upstairs Cash 8400. It's kind of unsettling, and if it were just an empty street with this bird in the sky, I wouldn't really think much of it. But what really sells it for me are the mother and son looking up at it, completely confused about what the hell they're looking at. Like, is that what I think it is? A bird just
frozen in the sky. Sure, they could be part of the hoax, but if so, they do a good job at playing it off realistic and subtle. This is a very strange video, especially because all there is behind the bird is open air. It's not like it's up close to a building where you could just chalk the bird up to being a sculpture or something. It's just hovering in the air, no string, nothing. You're driving down the road and spot two cars whose license plates are just a little too perfect to be random. This image was posted to Reddit by Veruca Moon. One car with a plate reading peekaboo and one next to it reading I see you. Some may view this as a funny little coincidence. Others may find something slightly more ominous about it, as if the universe itself was subtly winking at the driver as if to say, someone or something is always watching you. Now, if you think, well, these two cars, I mean, they had to have been together. They were just messing with everyone. Well, think again. According to Veruca Moon, the cars went their separate ways at the next intersection. Anyway, whether you believe that this is a genuine case of the Matrix glitching or not, it's a pretty wild coincidence. The universe is just funny sometimes. You see two unrelated men who look almost identical. This image was posted by Talascabril to the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit. Two guys on completely different soccer teams who just happen to look like twins. Not only do they have the same hairstyle and beards, I mean that's surface level, their facial structure is also very eerily similar. And if you're thinking they're the only odd thing about this image, look closer. Yeah, that guy sitting in the back looks a lot like them as well. He's further away and has his hood up, so it's hard to say for sure, but from what I can tell, we might have a Glitch in the Matrix triplet situation on our hands. What do you think though? Just a coincidence that these doppelgangers just happen to find themselves in the same place at the same time, or was there a glitch in the simulation? Just what in the hell is going on here? Have you ever seen clouds formed with a perfect straight edge like this? Prince 10,001 posted this picture to Reddit and it got a lot of people talking, with the top comment reading, "It's official, we're living in Minecraft." It really does look like the sky in an early 2000s video game that just hasn't finished rendering yet. Like if you were to continue walking closer to those clouds, more would suddenly form out of nowhere on the horizon. Are we living in someone's janky computer game, or are these secret weather control experiments just getting really weird? It's such a surreal looking image, isn't it? It's like some godly entity flew up into the sky and just cut out a section of the clouds like they were trimming their hedges or something. Of course, there's also the possibility that this is just a Photoshop job, but if genuine, that would have been a very strange sight to see. Are you a superstitious person? Do you think stray black cats bring bad luck? If so, you'd probably have a heart attack seeing this. 4 black cats on 4 separate benches posted by Rage Millie with the heading Control-C plus Control-V as a reference to copy and paste. Adding to the weirdness, 3 of these cats are also sitting right at the end of their respective benches. The only odd one out is the one furthest away, and it's in motion, so who knows where it ended up finally sitting down. I gotta say, I love cats, but they can be pretty creepy at times. This may be one of those cases. I mean, it's also very cute, but definitely odd. Would you decide to sit on one of these benches, by the way? I'd be half expecting the cats to swarm me and then start pawing and biting as punishment for moving in on their turf. It's like they're a gang of cats. Once again, is this just a case of cats being weird, or did the program running our simulation just get a little lazy? Don't you hate it when something goes missing? You spend days looking for it, decide to finally replace it, only to have the original item show up again as if it glitched out of reality and then just randomly popped back in. Well, that's exactly what happened to this Reddit user, Your Average Sprite. She posted this image here, with the caption reading, "My husband lost his $70 blade a few months ago. He looked everywhere and just assumed someone had stolen it. He bought another just like the old one. After a couple months, he wakes up today and finds the original sitting in the middle of his cushion on the couch, as if it never left." Super weird, but it's surprising how often this actually happens. The fact that you can look in every nook and cranny for something and then just have it reappear out of nowhere, it's insane. Some of these cases can definitely be chalked up to pranks or just not having looked as thoroughly as you thought, but there are those instances where you just scratch your head and go, I have no logical explanation for this. This next story is called The Disappearing Dog Walker, posted to Reddit by Jin is Aquia, who writes, "The other day, coming home from work on my bicycle, it happened that as I approach the curb in front of my house, I see a guy walking his dog, approaching the same spot. So I do that mental calculation you do to avoid awkwardness, and I pull in and hurry a bit to get off the sidewalk onto my front path so I won't be in his way. As I'm picking up my bike to go upstairs, I'm sort of half waiting for him to go by to make sure, but he never did. I look up and down the block, but he's vanished, and there is literally nowhere he could have gone in that same time where I wouldn't still see him. So tonight I'm just doing stuff online, and I keep thinking I hear a cat outside. I looked out the door, nothing. Keep hearing it, so I look again. Across the street is what looks like the same guy walking his dog again. At 3 a.m. by the way. I glanced to one side for a moment and back. Dude is gone again. Not a trace. Stood and watched for a while, just not there. Nowhere he could have gone. I don't know what to think. Sometimes in video games, NPCs will show up in odd spots. They'll disappear into walls, they'll randomly float through the air, suddenly appear on roofs with no obvious access point. It's hilarious. Take these sheep here. What video game is this from, you ask? Well, none. This is a real piece of footage. The clip was posted to Reddit by user DocsHoax, who writes, "A man lost a flock of sheep and found them on the roof of the hayloft. How they got there is unclear. It all happened near Omsk. In the morning, the worker did not find his sheep in the usual place and went to look. The search result was surprising. All the artiodactyl roofers were found on the roof of the neighbor's hayloft. The owner assumed they were scared of something and climbed up. As a result, all the sheep were safely lowered to the ground." You know what would probably have me second guessing if the world around us really exists or not? If everything and everyone just suddenly stopped. This story is called Time Froze. It was posted to Reddit by Electronic Trust 481. I had just gotten off the bus and was waiting for my light to turn green. I had my headphones in, I was jamming out, and then the light finally turned green. None of the cars were moving, so I assumed there was an ambulance. I took one of the headphones out to listen, but I didn't hear any sirens, so I look around and not a single person or car is moving. This lasted about a minute. Finally, I figured, F it, I'm gonna go. And as soon as my foot hit the pavement, everyone starts moving again. The cars, the people. It was like time stopped, and I got this unsettling feeling in my stomach as if they were all waiting on me to make the first move. What made it even more unsettling was everything was quiet. You know how people say when everything goes silent in a forest in the woods, you run? It usually means something predatory is in there with you. That's what it felt like. I still have no explanation for what happened that day. This last video was posted to Reddit by Downtown Issue 1421, and while I'm not saying this is a genuine glitch in the Matrix situation, it is very strange. Notice something odd about this mall? Yeah, all the stores are for smartphones. Downtown Issue 1421 wrote, "I took a last-minute trip to Bolivia. Did the simulation not have enough time to render and just spawned every store in this mall in as smartphone stores?" It's a pretty weird video, and aside from the fact that quite literally, based on the parts of the mall you see in the clip anyway, every store is a smartphone store, there's also something eerie about the mall itself. It has that kind of bizarre, liminal, spacey kind of vibe about it. I just also wonder how all these places stay in business. Like, who's going to all these different cell phone shops? Is the entire mall just one big front for something? Kinda seems like it. And we're kicking off this list with Anita, the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna. Anita is a high-tech balloon-type object used by NASA hovering over Antarctica. It was designed to track particles that are the result of collisions with high-energy neutrinos, which enter into our atmosphere from deep within space. Just a few years back, though, Anita discovered something kinda strange. It detected neutrinos that a group of scientists suggested could be a glimpse into a parallel universe. The strangeness comes from the fact that these particular neutrinos seem to come from below the Earth's surface instead of from space, like all the other neutrinos the device was designed to pick up. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know this. I am not a scientist. However, the consensus amongst scientists is that this was pretty odd. This led to some hypothesizing that maybe these particles were slipping into our world from a parallel universe where the rules of how things work might be completely opposite. Researchers have pondered that this potential parallel universe might be running time backwards. Imagine events unfolding in reverse, like rewinding a movie. So instead of coming from out there, they're coming from up there. Now, this is just speculative, but it's a possibility, and that's pretty cool. At number 9, we have a really cool story posted to Reddit by user udominate123. It seems like two parallel universes may have crossed over here. That's one possible explanation anyway, unless this is all just an amazing coincidence or, just isn't true. Anyways, it goes like this. My company was located inside a large business park, and there were walking paths that wound through buildings, crossed roads, and spanned the entire park. Every day during my lunch break, I would take a walk on those paths to get a little exercise. One day, I was walking. I noticed a car driving towards me that was the exact same color and model as mine, which isn't too odd in itself, except my car had a very unique vanity plate on the front that this car also happened to have. As the car got closer, I noticed it had a VIP pass from an event I recently went to hanging from the rear view mirror, the same as my car. I watched very closely as it drove by, and I saw myself driving, clear as day, wearing the exact same shirt I was wearing at the time, the same glasses. Since the car was inside the business park, it was moving no more than 15 miles per hour, so I got a very good look. The person driving looked forward the whole time, so they didn't appear to see me. It drove around a corner and was gone. I tried looking in the lots of the buildings where it was driving towards, but I didn't find any of them. My car was in the exact same spot I left it, unmoved. Next on the list, we have the man from Torrid. Now, this story has reached urban legend status at this point, but it's still a fascinating tale. The year is 1954, and Tokyo's Haneda Airport is buzzing with activity. In walks this dude, but when the customs folks asked where he's from, he drops a bombshell. Torrid is his answer. Now, wait a minute. You're probably thinking, like, well, where the heck is Torrid? What is that? Well, according to this mystery man, he pointed it out on a map, Torrid is exactly where Andorra is. Customs officers scratched their heads as the man became increasingly frustrated, never having heard of Andorra before. Torrid? Nowhere to be found though. So authorities stick him in a hotel room, guards stationed outside, but come morning, the guy has completely vanished. And not only that, but his passport and personal documents that were in custody were also nowhere to be found all of a sudden. So the idea here is that this guy slipped into our world from a parallel universe just for a short time, a glitch in the matrix, if you will, and hopefully he woke up the next morning in his own universe and got to head back home to Torrid and tell his version of events. Maybe there's another version of me shooting a video exactly like this right now, talking about the strange Japanese airport that didn't know where Torrid was, pointing at a mysterious place called Andorra on the map instead. Number 7, deja vu. Not gonna spend a lot of time on this one because you all know what it is and it's been talked about to death, but it is one of those phenomena that scientists have yet to definitively explain. There are only hypotheses, and that's pretty interesting, especially seeing as this is an incredibly common occurrence. You'd think, like, with how often this happens to everybody, that they'd have, like, cracked the code by now. Never gets old either. Like, every time deja vu hits me, it's just as magical as it was the first time, and I always have to announce it. Like, no matter where I am or how inappropriate it may be, I gotta be like, hey, I just had deja vu. Sorry, go on. Continue lowering the casket. I don't know, I just can't help it. It's so darn cool. Let me know some of your weirdest deja vu stories down below. I'm fascinated. Number 6, the wow signal. The wow signal is a mysterious radio signal picked up in 1977 by an Ohio State University radio telescope, lasting just 72 seconds. It's called the wow signal due to the astronomer Jerry R. Iman's scribbled exclamation on the data printout. The signal's frequency and intensity were unlike any known natural source, sparking speculation about its origin. Now, the most exciting theory is that it could have been extraterrestrial in origin, but some have even suggested it might have come from a parallel universe. The strange signal has only ever been captured one time, so perhaps whatever created this signal dipped into a black hole somewhere and is in a completely different universe now. But more dull explanations like passing comet or space debris have also not been ruled out, so it's definitely no definitive proof or anything, but pretty interesting all the same. It's worth checking out the recording too. Pretty spooky sounding. Number 5, the Mandela effect. This is another one that's just like with deja vu, gets talked about a lot, so I won't bore you with it for too long, but it's fun to talk about. The Mandela effect is when a lot of people remember something one way, turns out to be different. People think they remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, but he actually didn't. Some think it's because of parallel universes where different versions of reality exist at the same time, and the idea is that our memories might be crossing over from these other universes, causing this kind of confusion, a jumbled mess. There's a bunch of parallel worlds, each slightly different. Sometimes things just get jumbled up and we remember stuff from a different world. Now, that's just one possible explanation for this phenomena. Some say it's just how our brains work. Our memories are not the most reliable, and for whatever reason, there are certain things our brains collectively seem to picture one way and it just doesn't turn out to be the case. Really depends on which Mandela effect you're talking about, I guess. There are tons of different ones. Regardless though, it's another bizarre occurrence without a definitive scientific explanation. I still say my favorite one is the Pikachu's tail having like black on the end. That's one I seriously, everyone tells me, oh, when I was a kid I had a Pikachu doll with like a black, his tail was black on the end. I could swear. You can never find pictures of it unless it's like a, I don't know, unless someone just made one. I don't know. Anyway, next up we have ghosts. Now this one is pretty kooky, but ghosts don't come up much when the subject of parallel universes are brought up, so I just thought to change things up, I'd throw them in here. Now, ghost stories are not really taken seriously by the scientific community, which is fair enough. There's really no evidence that proves these types of stories to be legitimate, but at the same time, there's not really any definitive way to disprove ghosts outright either. It's kind of an unfalsifiable thing, and again, that doesn't mean they do exist, but it is possible. Unlikely, but possible. So, do ghosts exist in an alternate dimension adjacent to our own, which crosses over from time to time? Are they stuck in some sort of dimension where time doesn't move forward like it does here, and they're just trapped in a never-ending loop, appearing the same way they did before they died? Is that what happens when we die? That's a pretty terrifying idea. And number 3, we have unexplained disappearances. Unexplained disappearances happen all the time. We talk about a lot of them on this channel. People who go out one day, never to be seen again, just gone without a trace. Now, obviously, the most likely explanation here is foul play. Someone grabbed them and is just very good at concealing evidence. But is that the explanation for every one of these cases? Maybe not. It's just people have been known to disappear without a trace either. It's everyday objects too. So, are there small pockets of space that lead to parallel universes that these people or things just happen to fall into occasionally? I told a story about a month back about a pillow I had that just vanished from the couch and then reappeared months later. Like, stuff like this happens. It's incredibly weird. Check out my top 10 evil entities people encountered in apartment blocks video for that full story, by the way. Next up, we have a story posted to Reddit by user Julia Keck, and she describes an experience that, if true, could possibly point to a parallel universe brushing up against our own for a brief moment. She writes, "When I wake up, the first thing I do is get on my computer, and so I did that one morning. I decided I'd check my subscription feed on YouTube, and the first video that showed up was just some mundane story time type of video. Unfortunately, I don't really remember what it was or the author anymore. I don't usually watch this type of stuff, but for some odd reason, I had an urge to click on it and see what it was, and so I did. I watched a few seconds of the video unamused and then suddenly got a huge feeling of deja vu. I felt like I'd watched the video before, but the weirdest thing is I started reciting it. I knew every word said in the video. Why the F would I know it? I don't remember things so clearly when I have deja vu. I freaked out because watching this video before was impossible, as it was uploaded 20 minutes before I watched it. I even checked if this was some sort of re-upload or remake, but it wasn't. And that's gonna bring us to our final point here. We have the phone call. This one was also posted to Reddit by user Torby Lilies. The story goes as follows. I was at work when my dad called my phone. I was worried that something was wrong because a few minutes earlier I had called him and he couldn't make out what I was saying, but he knew it was my voice and I sounded agitated. All he could make out were a couple of times where I used some of the nonsense nicknames I use for my parents' pets, so he thought something had happened to the dogs. I told him I hadn't called him, but he didn't believe me and thought I was pulling a prank. Later on, when I saw him in person, I showed him that the last outgoing call I had made to him had been about 5 days before, but he had definitely been called by my phone earlier that day because his phone showed an incoming call from my number, and the call had gone on for about 3 minutes before it cut off. So, I mean, this would freak the hell out of me, right? It's the fact that whoever this mystery caller is sounded exactly like them, according to their father, and that they knew the names of their dogs. Was this a parallel version of this Reddit user who found themselves in another universe and tried calling their father in a panic, not knowing what was going on? Or had someone managed to hack their phone and knew exactly how to impersonate their voice and knew the names of their pets? I don't know. You decide in the comments.
Number 10. Theory of relativity. In our everyday lives, we experience 3 spatial dimensions and a 4th dimension of time. How could there be more? Einstein's general theory of relativity tells us that space can expand, contract, and bend. Now, if one dimension were to contract to a size smaller than an atom, it would be hidden from our view. But if we could look on a small enough scale, that hidden dimension might become visible again. Now, imagine a person walking on a tightrope. She can only move forwards and backwards, but not left or right nor up or down. She only sees one dimension. Ants living on a much smaller scale could move around the cable in what would appear like an extra dimension to the tightrope walker. You know how they explain the upside down in Stranger Things? Yeah, well, it'd be the same thing. So does that mean that the upside down really exists? Because I do not want to come face to face with a Demogorgon or Vecna. Number 9. Dan Cooper. One of the most famous heists in history occurred on November 24th, 1971, when a man who identified himself as Dan Cooper bought a one-way ticket to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines from Portland, Oregon. After the plane was airborne, Dan handed the flight attendant a note. At first, she just put it in her pocket without looking, but then Cooper told her, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." He opened a briefcase and revealed red-colored sticks surrounded by an array of wires. He told the flight attendant to write down everything he was saying, then take it to the captain. The note said, "I want $200,000 by 5 p.m. in cash exclusively in $20 bills put in a knapsack. I want 2 back parachutes and 2 front parachutes. When we land, I want a fuel truck ready to refuel. No funny stuff or I'll do the job." FBI agents assembled the ransom money and Seattle police obtained the parachutes from a local skydiving school. When Dan claimed his demands were met, he allowed all passengers and some of the crew to exit the airplane. He told the remaining crew to refuel the plane and chart a course for Mexico City while staying below 10,000 feet. Then, somewhere between Seattle and Reno, he jumped from the plane with the money and he was never seen again. Despite an expansive manhunt for over 45 years of searching, no conclusions have been made as to the man's identity or his fate after he jumped. It's called one of the greatest cold cases in FBI and US history, but many think he was from a parallel universe and just wanted some money. I don't know, but it makes you think. Number 8. The Cosmic Bruise. In 2017, scientists at Durham University discovered a weird cold spot in our universe. This cold spot is sometimes referred to as a bruise, and the scientists who discovered it believe that it might have come into existence after our universe collided with another and created an astronomical catastrophe. A controversial claim by Laura Mershini-Houghton is that it could be an imprint of another universe beyond our own, caused by quantum entanglement between universes before they were separated by cosmetic inflation. Laura said standard cosmology cannot explain such a giant cosmic hole and made the hypothesis that the cold spot is the unmistakable imprint of another universe beyond the edge of our own. If true, this provides the first empirical evidence for a parallel universe, though theoretical models of parallel universes existed previously. It would also support string theory. The team claims that there are testable consequences for its theory. If the parallel universe theory is true, there will be a similar void in the celestial sphere's opposite hemisphere. What could come as a bigger surprise since then, though, a few other cold spots have turned up. So if what those guys at Durham University are saying is true, then our universe has collided with not one, but multiple universes. This is the biggest piece of evidence pointing to the existence of multiple alternate realities or parallel universes. Number 7. Mirrors. Mirrors are thought to be portals to another world, and some believe this is another dimension, but those those who believe in ghosts believe it's a portal to the other side. Now many cultures still hold on to their superstitions that exist concerning mirrors, ghosts, souls, and death. The act of covering your mirror overnight is something that is done in multiple cultures and across many beliefs worldwide. As Anthony Parada from AP Astrology explains, mirrors are often seen as a portal into the liminal space and the other world, and have the power to reflect what is happening deep in our subconscious. However, while bedroom mirror ideas are fabulous for reflecting light in the daytime, they are at their most powerful when paired with sleep, say experts. There's also a notion that if you look into a mirror too long, you can see your face distort, and there's always that thing where people are scared their reflection is gonna move when they are not. And why would the reflection move? Because it's someone from another dimension trying to copy us. Number 6. Doppelgangers. A doppelganger is a biologically unrelated look-alike or double of a living person. You might have heard the phrase, there are 7 other versions of you in the world. Now, a study of look-alikes, unrelated people with faces so similar they could pass for identical twins, has found that such pairs share genetic traits. Scientists studied 32 pairs of individuals with uncannily similar headshots who were part of a long-running project by a Canadian photographer to document these faux twins. The 16 pairs found by computer analysis to have the most similar features also shared more genetic variants than the less similar pairs, the researchers concluded. Now that's not a huge surprise because researchers are already using genetics to predict face shape. The fake twins did not share DNA methylation patterns, chemical marks controlling gene expressions that are shaped by our environment, reinforcing the dominant role of DNA alone plays in determining our appearance. Now could this be an appearance of you who's accidentally in the wrong universe? Maybe. Maybe. Number 5. Third man syndrome. Sometimes when people get into really bad car accidents, there's some sort of supernatural phenomenon that happens to you. You may have heard of this as a video is now going viral on TikTok, and it's called third man syndrome, and it's an unseen presence that appears during traumatic survival situations that talks to the victim, gives them practical advice, and encourages them. Now this has happened to many people, and we don't know if it's some sort of angel speaking to them, or if it's another version of themselves from a different dimension telling them not to give up. Regardless, it is creepy. Now under one of these posts someone said, as a paramedic I can concur, many patients swear people were there and no one's around. So what can explain this? I'm not too sure, but it's comforting that someone is there with people experiencing such tragedies. Number 4. The Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is an observed phenomenon in which a large segment of the population misremembers a significant event or shares a memory of an event that did not actually occur. Fiona Broom, a paranormal researcher, coined the term to describe collective false memory when she discovered that a significant number of people at a conference she was attending in 2010 shared her memory that Nelson Mandela died in prison during the 1980s. In fact, the former president of South Africa was released from prison in 1990 and was very much alive at the time of the conference. This has caused an uproar on the internet with people discussing their experiences. Specific examples include the quote from the Snow White fairy tale, which most people believe say mirror mirror on the wall, but is actually magic mirror on the wall. The Star Wars movies encounter a similar circumstance with the quote, Luke, I am your father. The real line reads though, no, I am your father. Furthermore, many people collectively have false memories of how the Bearstein Bears book series title is spelt. Most people remember the name as Bearstein Bears using an E instead of the correct A in the last part of the name. But it was an E, I swear. Similarly, many people believe the name of the popular hot dog brand, Oscar Mayer, is spelled Oscar Mayer using an E in the last name instead of the proper A. It's said for the people who remember things incorrectly were in a different universe and then somehow got transferred to this universe. I don't know, but the Mandela effect is extremely real and scary. Number 3. Hadron Collider. The world's largest particle accelerator was turned on once again in the year of 2022. After 3 years of upgrades and maintenance, it immediately observed 3 exotic particles for the first time. The Large Hadron Collider, LHC, is now up and running and breaking records for the highest energy particle collisions ever performed. It's pretty exciting with the teams involved searching for more information on the so-called God particle, the Higgs boson, and signs of dark matter. And this machine could test for other dimensions. Now, how would they test for extra dimensions? One option would be to find evidence of particles that can exist if only dimensions are real. Theories that suggest extra dimensions predict that in the same way as atoms have low energy ground state and excited high energy states, there would be heavier versions of standard particles in other dimensions. These heavier versions of particles, called quasi-clean states, would have exactly the same properties as standard particles and so be visible to our detectors, but with a greater mass. If CMS or ATLAS were to find Z or W-like particle, the Z and W bosons being carriers of the electroweak force, with a mass 100 times larger for instance, this might suggest the presence of extra dimensions. Such heavy particles can only be revealed at high energies reached by the LHC, so we could potentially find out if there are indeed other dimensions. Number 2. Quantum immortality. Quantum immortality started as a thought experiment in the late 1980s and later was more fully developed by physicist and cosmologist Max Tegmark. It suggests that we can die many times throughout our lives. With each passing, our consciousness moves, slides, jumps, or shifts to the closest timeline, very similar to the one where we died. These ideas and application of the concept lie outside of the realm of science, but have been embraced by many of those who believe they have experienced such a shift. While science and skeptics may not agree, others are not so quick to dismiss the idea. There are reports of near-death experiences which validate these beliefs. Now, most people do not realize that they have jumped until later unless the event is particularly traumatic. Sometimes they can trace the shift back to a specific global tragedy or experience. Small differences are sometimes noted, and the result of earlier choices or decisions in which manifest in the new reality. And coming in at number 1 are psychics. Whenever psychics tap into the spirit world, you're tapping into a different timeline as their time is completely different than it is here, so that's why sometimes predictions don't come true. This is like when the 2016 presidential election happened. They were sure that Hillary was going to win, but then she didn't. Due to this, people think we shifted timelines in 2016. Now, one reason for the sudden shift, well, back in April 2016, CERN Weasel made it into the super collider I was talking about before and chewed its way through a 66,000 volt transformer. Workers found the charred remains later. Now, that definitely could have messed a lot of things up. All I gotta say is, stupid weasel. Number 10. Dreams. One theory with dreams is that we are visiting other realities while we sleep. Dreaming has always been a confusing topic for scientists and theorists because we have never gotten a guaranteed correct answer as to what exactly dreams are or why we even get them. One of the bigger theories surrounding dreams is that when we are dreaming, we are actually getting a glimpse into multiple parallel universes and what's happening there. By dreaming, we get to know what other versions of ourselves are doing in their respective universes. So yes, unfortunately, one time you did go to school naked. Sorry. Psychologists think that during dreams we turn information into multi-dimensional design based on our consciousness. Some believe that dreams are a way of our other selves reaching out to us and communicating with us, and it's an interesting theory because you have to take into consideration lucid dreaming and how some people have claimed to go to different realms while dreaming. Now, perhaps there exists advanced technology in other universes that allow people to reach out to their other selves. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I kinda believe this. I've had dreams where I go through my day as normal, and then the next day when I wake up, everything that happened in my dream happens in real life. Is that another version of me trying to warn myself of future events? Who knows, but it is trippy. Number 9. Black holes. Now, some people think black holes are actually portals to other dimensions. This theory was originally put forward by Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking believed that black holes are actually portals to another dimension or parallel universe, and that anything that gets sucked into a black hole is actually transported to the other dimension. It has already been scientifically proven that black holes have 2 openings, so it is pretty plausible to assume that whatever's at the other end might just be a separate reality. Either way, I think we should test it out and see if it really is, and guess what? I volunteer as tribute. Number 8. Backwards parallel universe. A group of NASA scientists working on an experiment in Antarctica have detected evidence of a parallel universe where the rules of physics are the opposite of our own, according to a report. A cosmic ray detection experiment has found particles that could be from a parallel realm that were also born in the Big Bang. The experts used the giant balloon to carry NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transit Antenna, or ANITA, high above Antarctica, where the frigid dry air provided the perfect environment with little to no radio noise to distort its findings. A constant wind of high energy particles constantly arrives on Earth from outer space. Low energy subatomic neutrinos with a mass close to zero can pass completely through Earth, but higher energy objects are stopped by the solid matter of our planet. That means high energy particles can only be detected coming down from space, but the teams Anita detected heavier particles, so-called tau neutrinos, which come up out of Earth. The finding implies that these particles are actually traveling backwards in time, suggesting evidence of a parallel universe, so there you go. Number 7. Deja vu. No, not the Olivia Rodrigo song, though it's a bop, but the actual experience of deja vu. Deja vu is French for already seen. It's the phenomena of feeling as though one has lived through the present situation before. It is an illusion of memory where, despite a strong sense of recollection, the time, place, and context of the previous experience are uncertain or impossible. Approximately 2/3 of surveyed populations report experiencing deja vu at least once in their lifetimes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I experience deja vu pretty often, and it can sometimes be terrifying. Now, there is no scientific explanation to this, but one theory has led many to believe that deja vu occurs when you do something in sync with your counterparts from other dimensions. For example, a person getting deja vu while getting coffee might be due to their alternate universe self getting coffee at the same time as well. It's both cool and creepy, and to be honest, this makes a lot of sense to me. Number 6. Time travel. Yes, time travel could take us to parallel universes. Time travel is the hypothetical activity of traveling into the past or future, but I truly think it's real. Why? Well, for some proof, there are a lot of celebrities who seem to look exactly like past historical figures. Take Anne Hathaway and her husband, Adam Schulman. They are just the tip of the iceberg. Now, everyone's heard of William Shakespeare, but what you probably don't know about the famous English playwright is that he had a wife named Anne Hathaway. But that's not the scary part. Adam looks exactly like William Shakespeare. Perhaps him and his wife came back for some unfinished business and to provide the world with more art. Everyone on the internet believes this, as people have said they came back for each other, eternal lovers, and history hath a way of repeating itself. Get it? Wink, wink, nudge. Yeah? No? Okay. And one fan claims Shakespeare made a deal with his wife. I get to be famous in this life, and you get to be famous in the next. I truly do believe this. The resemblance is uncanny. There's so many other celebrities as well, so it seems like people wanted to come back to Earth as other people, or they were born as the wrong person in our universe. Number 5. The multiverse. Yes, the multiverse is a real thing, and it wasn't just created for the MCU. The multiverse is a hypothetical set of all universes. Together, these universes are presumed to comprise of everything that exists, the entirety of space, time, matter, energy, information, and the physical laws and constants that describe them. The different universes within the multiverse are called parallel universes. One common assumption is that the multiverse is a patchwork quilt of separate universes, all bound by the same laws of physics. The concept of multiple universes, or a multiverse, has been discussed throughout history, with origins in ancient Greek philosophy. It has evolved over time and has been debated in various fields, including cosmology, physics, and philosophy. Although some scientists have analyzed data in search of evidence for other universes, no statistically significant evidence has ever been found, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The anthropic principle suggests that the existence of a multitude of universes, each with different physical laws, could explain the fine-tuning of our own universe for conscious life. Number 4. Shifting realities. So in 2020, there was a lot of talk on TikTok about people shifting realities as we were in lockdown. People were in realities where they were famous, were a part of Hogwarts, and so much more. But is there any truth to it? Reality shifting is a term that refers to the spiritual practice of transferring or shifting one's consciousness to an alternate reality, and or the attempt to alter the reality one is experiencing and transcending one's physical confines to visit alternate universes. Now, reality shifting, also known as shifting, is a form of manifestation rooted in Buddhism and Hinduism. So it's not just something made up by teenage girls. The techniques include hypnosis, transcendental meditation, biofeedback, binaural sounds, affirmations, and subliminal stimuli. So if you can shift to another universe, then that means there are parallel universes, right? Number 3. Glitches in the Matrix. What is this? Well, some people believe that we live in a simulation that is controlled by other people in a different universe, a parallel universe. These glitches are events that seem comparable to the effects of errors in computer programs or their execution. Some examples of these include objects vanishing and sometimes reappearing, people being seen by different witnesses at different locations at the same time, or not being seen in places where they should be, aka people vanishing, often for considerable amount of times, often with multiple searches, then reappearing and claiming they never left the spot. Changes in everyday familiar objects, and time slips and time freezes, where people interact with different time periods, or where they observe all movement and noises cease over a relatively short or larger area. Some glitches have even been caught on camera. Now, the idea that we are just test subjects and they control everything terrifies me, and if you guys were listening, I would love it if you could add $1 million to my bank account, please. Number 2. Real experiences. There are real stories of people experiencing themselves seemingly switching universes. One online user told this story: "It's been about a week and I am still trying to wrap my head around the fact that I might have died in another timeline and just jumped to this one." Background: I was driving down PCH, a very long highway up the coast of California, at 8:15 p.m. exactly. And I know this because I called my mom to let her know I was stopping to watch the sunset. As I'm watching the sunset, I hear a car's horn blaring. I turn around and see a car coming straight towards my car and myself, and then suddenly I'm sitting on the ground. Very confused, a headache is starting to come on, but I wasn't hit. My car wasn't hit and I'm still breathing. Obviously freaked out, I get back up and check my phone to call my mom because this is just crazy, and I notice it's 8:13 p.m. I check my phone to see if I actually did call her, but there's no history of it. I shake the nerves off and decide to just get home quickly, thinking maybe that was foreshadowing an event I did not want to relive. Once I'm home, my mom asked me why I called her and just hung up. I asked what time, she said 8:15 p.m. There's still no history of me calling her on my phone. Am I crazy or did I just jump timelines? And guess what, people? There are thousands of stories just like this. It can't be a coincidence, can it? And coming in at number 1, we've created our own universe. Yep. You heard that right. In 2013, researchers at the University of Maryland, College Park, and Towson University had reported that they created multiple universes inside a laboratory-created multiverse. The researchers created a metamaterial like those used in fashion invisibility cloaks that when light passes through it, multiple universes are formed within it. These universes, called Minkowski spacetimes, are similar to our own, except they more neatly tie up Einstein's theory of special relativity by including time as a fourth dimension. While this is rather extraordinary, the experimental setup is actually quite simple, though definitely rather unconventional. The multiverse is created inside a solution of Colbit and kerosene. So yeah, we made our own universe, thus proving there are parallel universes. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 unsettling signs of parallel universes throughout history we can't deny. Do you believe in parallel universes and have any strange experiences with it? Let us know in the comments down below, and hey, why not like and subscribe while you're down there? I'm your host Emily, and we'll see you next time. Peace.